What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am back with yet another album review, and today, talking about yet another highly anticipated release, not only of this month, but of the whole year. I am talking about the latest offering from Revocation, New Gods, New Masters. This also came out on September 26th, this time on Metal Blade Records. The band's ninth studio full-length overall. Of course, I have talked about albums like Great Is Our Sin and their last album, Nether Heaven, on an episode of Under the Radar, because that weekend was just loaded with so much releases, I just had to plop it somewhere. But here I am doing a full review for the first time since Great Is Our Sin. I did check out The Outer Ones when it came out, and that was a fantastic album, but here we are with a new Revocation album. So, yeah, for those who've been living under a rock, Revocation is a Boston-based technical death metal slash thrash metal band, like more like tech death thrash, if anything else. So, of course, I've been drawn into this band ever since I heard the album Deathless, I believe, back in 2014. And I've been following this band pretty much ever since. Like, I've checked out every release afterwards. Still need to listen to the early stuff, but still, I love what this band does, mixing, like, technical guitar work with, like, a death thrash attack. So, yeah, I was very curious to go over this one, especially considering some of the guest stars we get on this album, which I'll get to in a bit. But let's kick things off with the opening track, the title track, and immediately nasty guitar tone, riff arrangements, and then you get into like more like technical angular riffs on top of a thrash metal rhythm, which there's plenty of thrash metal still laced all throughout this album, but they are incorporating more of a death metal vibe as opposed to like a tech death vibe. Like, it does get technical, but it's not like tech death. It's just more like complexity added in for extra variety in the songwriting. But anyways, it gallops along pretty well, and you do get some like real nasty tremolo and blast beat sections. Dark melodies that just add a sinister edge. Even the harmonies are just downright evil on this song with a bass melody on top. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and talk about lead work right out of the rip. The fucking lead work on this album's absolutely incredible, ranging from, like, emotional weight to killer shredding guitars. And, like, across the board on this entire album, you get, like, harmonies, melodies, and lead work that often remind me a lot of Alex Skolnick from Testament. Like, there's a lot of Testament vibes, really, in Revocation's entire discography, but just mashed up with a more extreme metal, death metal current to it. And even like the guitar harmonies and the leads definitely make me think of something that Alex and Eric Peterson would do on Testament songs. But then we get into Sarcophagi of the Soul, where it starts off right out of the gate with harmonies before it gets into like tremolos on top of a thrashy gallop, and then turns into like a straight up skank beat or Slayer beat. But man, this begins another big thing that I loved about this album. Triplet chugs. This album, throughout the majority, just goes into triplet chugs galore. And I absolutely love triplet chugs, of course, as you know. Then we get into Confines of Infinity. Right out of the gate, switches the mood more to a death metal vibe. Like, it's got more atonal riffing that kind of made me think of bands like Immolation and Gorguts to a degree. But then it chugs along nicely before it transitions into more tremolo, more blast beats, before it goes into like a death metal double time rhythm, or even a thrash metal double time rhythm, like, again, bands like Testament. And this is one of the first guest appearances we get vocals from the great Travis Ryan of Cattle Decapitation, and his vocals fit this song to a T. Like, his nasty evil growls and his insane, like, goblin-esque screaming vocals. Blech, just absolutely disgusting. Before you do get back to leads and then a killer breakdown. Like, there's a few breakdowns that pop up on this album, particularly on Confines of Infinity, Dystopian Vermin, and Data Corpse. Those songs have nasty breakdowns that just, again, add more of a brutal edge to this album. But speaking of Dystopian Vermin, I love how you get a nasty bass line before it unleashes into, like, gross thrash metal. double times again, and then even some like awesome downstroke guitar gallops that made me think of, Metallica, Slayer, Overkill, bands like that. And it grooves. Like, this is one of the first times you really get like proper groove on the album before it goes back into nasty triplet chugs. Despiritualize, another one of the more evil sounding songs on the record, just overall just has a more sinister sound to it. But you do get some clean melodies popping up here a little bit, which is a nice accent to add to the song before it kind of goes all over the place from tremolo to technical angular riffs, blast beats, double time. There's some atonal guitars, groove, thrash, triplet chugs. It was just basically an all-encompassing track early on in the album. But then we get into The All Seeing, which is an instrumental featuring leads from Gilad Hexelman, I think that's how you say it, who's an Israeli guitarist who I wasn't familiar with, but he does a pretty good job trading off leads with Dave Davidson. But the song itself, again, technical angular riffs. You also still get triplet chugs, gallops, blast beats, thrash metal all over, some groove. But dare I say it's a little bit proggy. Like, there's some like proggy guitar going on here. And of course the lead trade-offs were just masterfully done. Data Corpse basically perfectly aligns death metal and thrash metal to a T. You get like thrash metal riffs, but you do get like tremolo and blasts. But death metal, oh wow. That came up out of nowhere. But like death metal chugs and even the vocals from Dave get a little bit lower, more towards death metal rather than his typical like maniacal bark delivery that's kind of similar to Sven from Aborted when he's not doing gutturals. It's basically a similar style. And then we get to the penultimate track, Cronenberged. This one, for the most part, stays primarily in like a thrash metal sense. Starts off with another awesome bass line into just absolute maniacal riffing and rhythms of thrash. But again, you still get those like technical angular riffs. And it's just flat out wild, and this is where we get another guest vocal spot from Johnny Davey of Job for a Cowboy, and his vocals are just gnarly on this track, all concluding with the closer, Burial Epoch, and it's the longest track of the album at 7.5 minutes. For the most part, this one goes for a ton of death metal. You still get thrash towards the end, but most of the song feels more of like a death metal song. You get like dissonant, clean melodies, and then that dissonance turns distorted and just makes it sound even darker. Chug and groove, blast beats, even some melodic death metal touches kind of get showcased a little bit here, and then we get back into triplet chugs. And then we get our final guest spot from Luke LeMay from Gorguts, which I have to say, like, the dissonant parts, I couldn't help but think, were they inspired by Gorguts writing this song? And that was another reason why they got Luke to come in to do vocals for a song that's kind of in that realm. But regardless, Luke's vocals fit the song, and it just added more darkness. And then even darker, clean melodies come in before it gets into leads, and then tremolo, and then it concludes on a more thrashy note. So, yeah, pretty much a perfect song to end this album. Production-wise, David produced the album, but it would be mixed by Jens Bogren, which Jens Bogren's come up quite a bit this weekend, I must admit. But he did mix Nether Heaven, which was awesome. So I think the mix on this was stronger than on Nether Heaven. And songwriting-wise, I'll just go ahead and say I think this is better than Nether Heaven in my personal opinion. Honestly, I got nothing to complain about with this album. The songwriting is wild, but it's cohesive. It's just a perfect blend of technicality with death metal and mostly thrash metal. And this is probably one of the best Revocation albums I have heard yet. This is going to be my fourth 5 out of 5 I'm giving this year. Holy shit, this album is just flooring. Like, oh my god. These guys just continue to push themselves. Primarily David, since he's the only OG member in the band, keeps pushing himself vocally and guitar work and songwriting wise. This is just yet another masterful album from one of the best modern technical extreme metal thrash metal bands out there. So if you are a fan of Revocation, you're going to get this, and if you're not a fan of Revocation but you are curious, this is a good place to start. And if you are a fan of bands like I would say Testament, Vector, I would even say bands like Arsis, maybe even little bits of Obscura, and even like later era Death, check this out. This is some killer work. But of course, those are just my opinions. What did you guys think? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. But until next time, thank you for watching, keep your horns high, and your dreams wet.